What's up, Airsofters? This is the limited edition Alpine KRISS Vector AEG from KRYTAK, and this is Tim Sargent from KRYTAK. Tim, who are you?
Well, you just said. I'm Tim Sargent from KRISS USA. KRYTAK is one of the brands that I oversee and I'm in charge of. I'm the marketing manager here, so that's why I'm here. We're here to talk about our new product, the Alpine KRISS Vector.
The Alpine KRISS Vector is a limited edition AEG, and there's a lot of cool things going on with this release. Why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of the history of the Vector as well as what makes this one different from the Vectors before it?
Right, so the history of the Vector and the recoil mitigation technology that goes inside the gun stemmed in the early 2000s. And the first ideas and the first prototypes of the Vector were really designed to compete with the MP5 as kind of a counter-terrorist CQB kind of gun. And because the Super V system helps manage recoil, the first versions of the gun came out in 45 ACP. It's a very big round, and so to manage that recoil was kind of a challenge for engineers, and something that the challenge that they wanted. So that's kind of how the Vector took shape. And then by the mid-2000s, maybe 06, 07, is when the first versions of the gun really hit the market, and it's kind of taken form as you see it here. Obviously, the Alpine is what we have in front of us here, and this is one of the most accurate airsoft versions to the current KRISS Vector Gen II firearm that we have today.
Okay, now the KRISS Vector has gone through several iterations. Granted, the design of it is really based in function before form. That's why the body shape is the way that it is. The recoil mitigation system requires a body shape that looks like this, and then you kind of adapted the control systems to make it as comfortable as possible while keeping the platform really small. Now, the different design iterations that the real Vector has gone through, have those translated into the Airsoft version with each step?
They were accurate for the time. So the Vector, the core of the Vector hasn't changed much. So we have our Super V system and we have the low bore axis. You can see the barrel's kind of in line with the trigger. So those are the two main features of the Vector that really help manage the recoil on the real firearm. Not really an issue with Airsoft, of course. But yeah, so the changes for the Vector have been a little bit external, I guess you could say. The receivers changed a little bit from having a folding stock to a receiver that accepts the same type of buffer tubes as an AR-15. We've added a little bit of length to the barrel, which gives us a little more room to play with to add Picatinny rail handguards, and in the case of the other limited edition Vector, the MLOK handguard. And so we've kind of added things to it that bring it more in line with the current trend with firearms, because when the Vector first came out, there was no such thing as MLOK or key mod or anything like that. So it's been a natural progression to keep up with the changing trends in the firearm industry and how people are using guns. And so obviously that's, of course, is translating into Airsoft.
The increased barrel length from the 6.5-inch barrel is going to give you better grouping at distance and give you a little bit more room for a nice tight grip on the front handguard, which not only is comfortable but comes with a front hand stop as well as Picatinny rail segments. One thing I really like is the KRISS stock that you have here. It's easily adjustable, has QD points, a nice rubberized stock pad, and gives you multiple adjustment positions, like a standard AR stock. And instead of going with the folding stock with the M4 buffer tube adapter, integrating it into the body both increases reliability through, it being more durable, and shortens up what would have otherwise been a bulky transition from one to the other. So
yeah, definitely.
At fully collapsed, it's actually a more compact system than some of the original Vectors that were released.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a folding adapter, but like you said, it just kind of adds things to it. So in an effort to keep the gun very compact, we've kind of gone with this particular design here. That's really a feature that was kind of for the firearm use. We have added things to the Airsoft KRISS Vector, such as this extended battery cap. Obviously, you don't have batteries with real guns, but it's kind of a nice feature to kind of ease the ownership experience of taking a battery and putting it in and out.
Now, just inside the extended battery cap is something else that you guys are doing that's new to this platform specifically, but also something that's going to be rolling out on other KRYTAK products.
Right.
Well, at this time. I mean, if you're watching this later, obviously, you already know. But this comes with a special connector that differs from the standard small type Tamiya.
Right, so the Vector Alpine plus also the new release of the PDW MLOK all come with the new Airsoft T-plug. Now the T-plug is a transition that we're going to be doing moving forward. It's just a better design. Okay, so the T-plug, especially with a compact battery space like you have in the Vector, it's a much smaller plug. It fits much more securely than the old school Tamiya. and it just provides better connectivity and less resistance. So all around, it's a big step up and an improvement in the electronic system of the gun. And this is really kind of the trend that we're going to be moving towards, going forward, is kind of moving away from the traditional Airsoft design just because it's a legacy issue. So,
right. The gearbox that has been in use because it's the gearbox that has been in use,
right.
or the style of the way things are done, just
right.
simply because it's been done for that way
right.
for 15 years.
Well, a lot of Airsoft specifications, especially on the technical side of things, is centered around the original Tokyo Marui design.
Right.
And we don't have the same type of limitations with regards to the performance because of the laws in Japan versus here. So we really shouldn't be limiting ourselves to that standard just because that's what they did.
Right.
So
right.
this is a step in a direction to increase the performance of the gun right out of the box. It's a standard upgrade that a lot of high-end techs do to their guns anyway, to eke some performance out of their guns. So providing it from the factory is just, it's a next logical step for us.
Now, for those of you that are uninitiated into the world of better connectors, the Airsoft T-plug and T-plugs like it give you lower resistance between your battery and your electronic system, the trigger control and things like that. Now, ultimately, that means your wiring's going to stay cooler, your battery's going to run more efficiently, your motor doesn't have as much strain on it during the flow of electricity from the trigger to the motor. So all of those things are going to give you a much more enjoyable playing experience, and it's going to make your components last longer.
And of course, if you're not ready to jump into the world of new T-plug batteries, we do have the Tamiya adapter for you. It is going to take up very precious battery space, so obviously we do encourage you to use the battery that is designed for the gun. But we realize that it's going to be a transition, and there's going to be a crossover period before it kind of catches on. So that's why we provide the adapter.
Let's take a look at the internals. All of KRYTAC's products are very well protected in their packaging. In the box, alongside the Vector, you'll get 2 magazines, one long, one short, an extended battery cap, a T-plug to Tamiya adapter, and a set of KRYTAC's excellent flip-up backup iron sights. This white version also includes a certificate of authenticity, which will only be available for this limited edition item. Due to the unique shape of the Vector, KRYTAC had to design a completely new gearbox. As a result, some of the internal parts are proprietary. Proprietary parts include the cylinder head, tappet plate, and trigger unit. Keep in mind that standard V2 gears will not fit in a KRYTAC gearbox, so any aftermarket gears will need to be KRYTAC specific to function. Standard parts include the hop-up chamber, bucking, barrel, piston, cylinder, and air nozzle. The piston has 4 metal teeth, and the second tooth has been removed. The piston head is ported, but does not have a bearing. The air nozzle is a standard V2 variety without an O-ring. The hop-up chamber is a version 2 rotary style, and the bucking and barrel are standard AEG compatible. The gearbox is driven by KRYTAC's 30K short type motor, and the gears spin on 8mm bearings. The trigger, fire selector, and safety are activated by these micro switches. A MOSFET regulates the power flow, and an automotive fuse protects everything from damage. If you're looking to make upgrades to your KRISS Vector, a spring is the obvious way to go, as it's so easy to access. Changing the spring on the KRISS Vector involves removing 2 pins on the floor plate. A longer, tight bore barrel will also increase your velocity and accuracy dramatically, and because the Vector has standard 14mm negative threads, you can easily attach a mock suppressor to protect the extra barrel length. As you can see, we're in our outdoor testing facility. I've got 2 5-gram BBs loaded in the new limited edition Vector. Let's put off a few rounds. Accuracy's nice right out of the gate. I will say the inclusion of some of the external features make this a lot more comfortable as a shooter for Vectors. I love the new stock. It's easily adjustable and it pockets really well in the shoulder. An optic would fit here right on the top rail. You've got plenty of space to do it, but the factory irons are great right out of the box. I absolutely love the new handguard. I think the included hand stop is very comfortable, and you've still got plenty of room to mount an accessory or two if you need to. But in such a compact platform, you really aren't going to be throwing on a whole lot of accessories. Maybe a vertical grip, but really ideally a flashlight or a small PEQ box with a laser is going to make this thing awesome. Slap a tracer in there and this thing's ready to go to town. In terms of trigger response, I will say that like the triggers before it with the other Vector systems, you do want to make sure that you're doing a deliberate trigger pull. So don't half stroke the trigger. Make sure you're doing a deliberate full trigger pull to make sure that it sets off around every time correctly. Other than that, trigger response is great, and that's because of the additional T-plug. Well, the T-plugs that they've included now, giving you lower resistance for the gearbox overall, giving you increased trigger response, and I really like that. Now, when we're talking about fire control modes, yes, every AEG has semi, and most have full auto, but the Vector has something unique, and that's 2-round burst. Get down there. I love 2-round bursts, and I think more guns should have burst fire options. With that said, I do wonder, there aren't very many fields that allow 2-round bursts here in America. So if more guns come with the features like this, should that be a game type on its own? Being that this is such a short-barreled platform, you might expect the accuracy to suffer. But with 2 5-gram BBs and the hop-up set at about 4 to 5 on one right out of the box without cleaning the barrel, let's see what the accuracy is like. One of the first things I notice is that it's really consistent out of the box. Yeah, we're only shooting about 50 feet away, but for standard engagements where you'll be using a platform like this, 50 feet is about where you're going to be engaging people, and a nice tight grouping well within the A zone is really nice. And the fact that you don't have to clean the barrel, I mean, you should clean your barrel, but if you had to take this right out of the box and go to town, you definitely could. Now, while semi-auto accuracy is a lot of fun, we all know what that switch is for. Let's do it. You know, every Monday can be made better with a healthy application of fully automatic. Bet you they call their hits. Now, I did want to mention, this thing's white, and it looks awesome. The white color scheme is not only cool looking right out of the box, but you could use this as a blank canvas to do your own artwork or to customize it yourself. But leaving it white does present a problem. This thing's brand new, and while these aren't the cleanest gloves in the world, they're certainly not covered in mud, and as you can see, it's already discoloring the pistol grip. So keeping this clean is going to be a new task added to your regimen if you're interested in keeping the original white color white. But who cares? It looks awesome, right? As always, we're going to be doing our chronograph test. We've got our KRYTAC Chrono here set for 0.2 gram BBs, and I've got 0.2 gram BBs loaded in my fresh magazine. Now, while these figures are the figures right out of the box, because of the quick change spring guide, you can of course change that at any time by going with a standard AEG spring. Now then, let's chrono test this bad boy. After 10 shots, it's pretty consistent right around the 330 to 335 FPS mark. But that's really nice because a gun like this needs to be used in a CQB environment, and most indoor fields have a limit of about 350 FPS. So it's right on the money, right out of the box to be used. You can of course adapt this to an outdoor gun by putting in a heavier spring, but man is this good right out of the box and consistent. You know, we've seen the Vector in a variety of movies, television shows, games, and it's an awesome looking platform. Now, it is worth noting that if you're used to firing an AK or an M4 or just about every other airsoft gun on the planet, this is going to take some getting used to. The separated fire controls require a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to them, the ergonomics, comfortability, accuracy, and reliability of this platform make it a huge performer. Not to mention, it comes in a super cool all-white Alpine theme that just looks awesome. Back to the studio. I gotta say, I had a blast shooting this out in our outdoors testing facility. Not only does it perform well, but it's honestly more comfortable than the original Vector. I think I'm just used to the M4 style stock, and I absolutely love the new handguard. It's really snappy. Overall, it's a great platform, but I'm sure people are wondering, Is this going to be a version that they can purchase in other colors? Will these be individual components that they can buy in the future? How limited is this limited edition?
Okay, so the short answer to that is no. They won't be able to configure your own Vector. So this is a limited edition Vector. We're creating only 3,000 units of this for the entire world. They're all individually serialized. They all come with a certificate of authenticity. And so there will only be 3,000 Alpine White Vectors out there. So if you like this, you got to get it like this, okay? And the components, you know, some of these components are available through our web store. For example, this is the Mark V rail that we sell, same as the one that goes on the firearm. The Picatinny hand stop is the same, you know, accessory that goes on our firearm.
So if you wanted to do this stock, you're going to have to use the adapter.
You're going to have to use the adapter, or if you want the one-piece upper like we have here that mimics our firearm, then you have to get the limited edition Alpine, or there may still be some of the older limited edition black ones floating around here. But yeah, if you like the Alpine, there's only going to be 3,000 of them, so you're going to have to jump on it.
So if you're looking to get the most realistic version of the KRISS Vector in an airsoft gun, this is the way to do it. This is the most realistic, true to form of the real firearm counterpart. And they're going fast. So make sure you head to Evike.com to pick up your limited edition Alpine version of the Vector AEG from KRYTAK. Make sure you follow our social media for updates and awesome stuff coming from KRYTAK, including the new Mark II PDWM, which also comes with a new connector and a couple other really cool things. Make sure you're tuning into our social media like Facebook and Instagram for that. And make sure you're following KRYTAK's social media. They're regularly releasing awesome content, including stuff that we don't even know is coming yet. So make sure you're tuning into their Instagram. See you later.